Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, the Big and Furry Bovine. Tony the Calf will be joining us in just a minute. He's lost a personal belonging, and Brian is with us. And anyone else who wants to jump in, please feel free. The link to the panelists and into the studio is right up on the description of the program on YouTube. You can't miss it if you're looking for it. Now you're saying, hey, what are you doing here? And, usually you come on with your big fat face on here. I just wanted to share a play. And, with all of the talk after the magnificent Browns victory yesterday, I think some things get a little bit lost in the shuffle. And I wanted to start out the program with what I think is as good an indication of why the Steelers lost as anything, as opposed to what was described on whether it was ESPN or wherever the hell, they were making excuses for the Steelers. I think this play pretty well says it all. Hey, way to go, Tony. He'll be right on in just a minute. All right. What we want to do here is run the first play of the game. And of course, this just came as such a shock to everybody because Pouncey's a very good center. And for him to snap a ball this badly is absolutely, like the last thing you would expect to start out the game with. But that's not the surprise. And that's what they focused on, was like, I can't believe that a multi-year all-pro like this would make a mistake this rudimentary. So early in a game when there was no pressure on him to do anything.
Remember when this happened to Peyton Manning, and I want to say it was the Broncos when they played the Seahawks in the Super Bowl? This was the exact same thing that happened to them. Either it went for a safety or it went for a defensive touchdown in that game. And it was just straight downhill for the Broncos from that point on.
All right, now watch this play as it unfolds. And I'm going to be doing this a little manually, so bear with me.
Running back. Steelers dead last in the league.
Here comes the snap. Whoa, okay. Okay. I'm going to take this back already because what I'm getting at here is, and it's very hard to control this, I apologize.
And they start with a horrible snap.
All right. If you take a look at where the ball is, which is the blur right here on the screen, and then you have two men running after it, including Big Ben Roethlisberger. All right. Now, what I find interesting about this particular frame is the reason the Steelers lost the football game. Do you see what I see?
An old man can't get on the ground.
That's right.
Or is afraid to get on the ground.
That's exactly right. Plain and simple, ball loose near the goal line that can be down to the 2-yard line, clearly here. And one man actually diving for it, and the other one was waiting for him to dive for it. We'll show you again so that you can see this.
Steelers dead last in the league in rushing. And they start with a horrible snap all the way back to
somebody help me, bam, and they just let the Browns just dive all over it.
Yeah.
Right. Now,
of all crazy things, you don't go to the playoffs.
You're not getting the sound, are you, on this?
Yes. Yeah, we are.
Oh, the broadcast?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So we can hear Al Michaels screaming in the background.
All right, they're going to show this again, I do hope. I just dug this up, and here we go. Watch. This is the perfect view. Bam. Okay. From this moment on, it's obviously you better get the football, all right? But look at Ben. He's already taken one look to his left, like, help me out here.
The left, and he just shoots.
And Ben runs right by the football without even trying for it.
Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, Myles Garrett's totally unblocked on that play.
I mean, this whole thing, and he misses it himself, and it takes Joseph to jump on top. And look at Roethlisberger. Keep your eyes on him in this slow-mo. Look at this. Hey, What?
So here comes
Back off.
number 95.
Ben just backs off.
Pushes it into the end zone.
All right. That's all I need to see. That's all I need to see. Because that in the probably, I mean, if you're in your home stadium and you want to blow out the unprepared, unready Cleveland Browns,
As soon as he turned around, he saw Myles Garrett. He saw 95 right there, and he said, "No, I'm not jumping on that damn thing."
well, Nathan Zagura field reported and said that Roethlisberger was still sitting on the bench while they were taking the benches away 20 minutes after the game ended. And does this remind you of anything, guys?
Not
Somebody
really.
on the field long after the game ended. We'll go back to Bob Golick.
I was going to say Bob Golick walking around the field still in his uniform after everybody was gone and everybody had already cleared out of the locker room.
Raiders. That was what the end of his career, and that was the last game he ever played. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to recommend is it would be a good idea if he would not play again based on the way he played. But you see, anyone can have a bad day, right? I guess, the bottom line is you don't really want to, I'm going to stop the screen share now. I don't want to, this whole thing is not about gloating, about trolling or anything like that. What it is, it's about coming prepared to play. And if you can't throw your body on the ground after a ball on an important play like that can immediately swing the momentum of a game, it makes me wonder his fitness to play the football game. Is it that he's so taped up that he's like a mummy? Because this is the Ben I've been talking about in recent weeks about he just doesn't look like himself. He's stiff. And we saw a number of throws that were just, the interception by MJ Stewart, which he lobbed up in the air in the middle of nowhere. The ball he threw directly to Taki that was clearly behind and underthrown. And one where he broke containment and just skipped the ball 6 yards short of a receiver. He doesn't seem to have touch anymore on his passes. He just appears to me to be, I don't know. It's like he never fully recovered from the arm injury. And it was, I think you said, Brian, or somebody said yesterday that it was Cam Newton-esque. There's something amiss.
I think that was Bronk.
Okay, there's something missing there. And it isn't just a bad day because I've been watching the Steelers play every week and he doesn't look the same to me. At any rate, look no further than that because hustle is a big part of the game. And if you're not hustling, and I don't care if you're a 38-year-old superstar who's won Super Bowls and done it and so many great things that a Roethlisberger has done for the Steelers, what it tells me is that he was not prepared to play and his head was not in the game. He was clearly looking for somebody else to do something. And, that didn't go down. That didn't work. Now, at the same time, I want to share something else that has a lot more to do with God Almighty. We got to do this again. The one thing about screen sharing in this particular program is that this app is that it's a little bit awkward, but it works. The important thing, I suppose, is that it works. And everybody has seen this, and I think that it's you're seeing this now on the screen with me. I'm gonna, I want to put this as, there we go. All right, and I'm learning how to use this at the same time you're watching me try to use it. All right, here we go. I think you've seen this.
I fucking had it, bro. Fucking bro. Bro.
Oh my God, this was great on Twitter.
Fucking head. Fuck you. Fuck this shit, bro. You gonna let fucking Baker Mayfield do this shit to you, bro? What the fuck? Go 11-0. 11-0 and you fucking do this shit. Are you fucking kidding me? You fucking piece of shit. Fuck this shit. Fuck.
Now, and so that's gone viral, and everybody knows about that.
Hey, Steven, I didn't know you had a cousin.
I'll be honest with you. This isn't funny. Not to me. I watched this, and the anger that disproportionate anger, and it reminds me of the burning, the looting, the Capitol building, all of it. Everything is out of perspective here, completely out of perspective, and the using the fist to destroy the screen of a television, or
The fist used a fucking stepladder. What are you talking?
Well, at the end, he used his hands.
Yeah.
And, and it was just like people wrapping things around their hands and punching in through the Capitol building. And unlike the countless things we saw in Minneapolis as well, breaking windows and looting stores. This is sports, folks. And I consider that really a scary thing, a really scary thing.
Welcome to society, my friend.
Welcome to society in 2021. Yeah. I'm not here to troll Steeler fans. And, I want to start out the program with that, and then start out the program with Stephen A. Smith, who was not only unapologetic, he didn't address the Cleveland Browns at all. He tweeted that his Steelers are a disgrace. That's a quote. And I just can't for the life of me understand a franchise that has been so good to its fans in the city of Pittsburgh and being a consistent winning force, that fans can take this kind of an attitude and call their team a disgrace because, let's be honest about this. The Steelers
and the Steelers were the only positive thing about the entire city of Pittsburgh in the 1970s, as they're losing their steel industry, they're losing jobs, they're losing every fucking thing. But the Steelers were the only thing keeping the morale of that city afloat, because the Pirates were fucking horrible.
Pirates for a while, it did with the We Are Family, but I mean after that they got no help from that whatsoever. And the state of Pennsylvania had the Eagles win, and their coach now has been terminated.
But that's Eastern Pennsylvania. That's not
right.
Western Pennsylvania. It might as well be two states like West Virginia and Virginia.
And the Steelers have a very large following, even in the Youngstown area. You'll get division between people. When you go across over to Sharon in Pennsylvania, you'll find Steeler fans, and it's an in-between kind of thing there. But for Stephen A. Smith to come on and I'll do Stephen A. because everybody's seen the one Stephen A. This was Stephen A. If you didn't see First Take this morning, I'll do that for you.
Well,
oh my Steelers, I'm depressed. I'm depressed. I mean, and he was like, it was like somebody just shot him with sodium pentothal. I mean, it was. He was telling them disgraceful on Twitter, and he was basically just bemoaning, and he never said anything about the Cleveland Browns. And it took Kellerman on there to say, well, look, somebody beat the Steelers. It's not about the Steelers. It's about the Browns today, Stephen A. And he wouldn't go there because, it's fans denigrate. And the reason I'm saying this is because Cleveland fans, you're no better. You wanted to get rid of Baker Mayfield. Can you imagine the people are saying, oh, should we even sign him to that 5th year? Should we even do that? I mean, can you imagine? Go ahead. No, go ahead, Tony.
I was going to say, it's a mentality. It's like with Pittsburgh, when you're so used to winning every single fucking year, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh shit, our time's up. You don't know how to act. It's just look at the Browns this year. Everybody was so used to losing, and the Browns started winning, and nobody knew how to act.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, and they all focused in. I mean, the funny thing is, there was one guy, Christian M., who was posting on my halftime show, bemoaning the fact that the Browns were already going conservative. I mean, I'm like, it's 35-10, dude. What are you putting this in there for? And
well, I can understand that point because even I got a little bit of the remembrances from the Titans game where the Titans almost came back and won.
Every game. I mean, there ain't no game that's going to remain with the momentum. We play 60 minutes in American football. You see, in a boxing match, you make a mistake, you get hit with one punch, it's a knockout, and the fight's over in the first round. Right? Lights out.
Right.
It's not like that. You got to play the whole 60 minutes, and very rarely. I mean, you go up 28-0. I mean, you think you're going to end up beating the Steelers 142-0. I mean. That's not going to happen. So in the end, there is going to be a period of time where the tide can turn. And when that happens, you got to keep a tight asshole and you got to execute your game plan. But the thing about the fans is that, high highs, low lows, and there's no rational thought being put into this. And it's like I kept telling people, you got to wait on Baker Mayfield. Was I willing to say, oh, he's the franchise quarterback? I mean, I don't have no crystal ball. I don't, and I did tell people stories about, Carson Wentz and quarterbacks who got off to really good starts. But the fact of the matter is that the Browns have had no quarterback for so long.
Well, the miraculous season that Nick Foles had, where he had like 29 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Right.
His rookie season, and then
yeah, I mean, and for me, it's not a that's interesting. My there we go. Okay, it started up again. I was locked on the chat room. The fans jump to these conclusions. He's nothing but a game manager. Look, it's like I told you just a week ago. I mean, nobody ever made that accusation of Bart Starr and Bob Greasy. Nobody ever made this comment about Ben Roethlisberger, the great Ben Roethlisberger, but he was only throwing 24, 25 times a game, and the Steelers were running over people with a bus named Bettis. Nobody was saying he's just a game manager. All quarterbacks are game managers from the standpoint they touch the ball on every play. And they're
what the hell about Joe Montana?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's easy to remember Montana throwing to Rice or throwing to Dwight Clark in the critical moments, but there was a whole different part of things, between their running game, their defense, this. I think everybody is like thinking that sports is like the NBA, where it's like, oh, we're here to watch LeBron or AD, or we're here to watch, whoever the flavor of the week is, and it's all individual effort. And they forget that it takes a village. I hate to say it, but it takes a team effort to get things done. And to me, it's inane to suggest that, because Baker Mayfield played for Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchens, that he's never going to go anywhere. And the reason I'm saying this is because of what's happened in Philadelphia. I mean, Carson Wentz gets off to a great start, right? And then when Nick Foles comes in and wins the Super Bowl because Carson Wentz is hurt, Wentz comes back the next year and has a very good season. But Doug Peterson fucked up. Doug Peterson lost the team. I don't know how it happened, and he did what management told him to do by quitting the game and not going for the win by putting in Sudfeld, and the whole thing was senseless. But that's what he was told to do. He followed instructions, and now for following instructions, he gets fired, which tells me that management is fucked up in Philadelphia as well. And we've seen this toxic blend before when people in the front office don't agree with the coaches, who don't agree with the coordinators. I didn't hire this defensive coordinator. You gave me Greg Williams, the crazy son of a bitch. I don't want to deal with him. And then, Freddie Kitchens, on the other hand, saying, look, I'm calling all the players. I'm designing the whole book all over again, even though that's going to confuse Baker Mayfield. When coaches don't coach to players' strengths, I think it's easy for fans to just say, well, he was good at one time and he sucks now. It isn't that way. I mean, there are some players who are really salvageable players. They're not going to be Hall of Fame players. And I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield is going to be a Hall of Fame player, but you can make him look as bad as Hugh Jackson made him look and as bad as Freddie Kitchens made him look in a fire drill, or you can use him like Kevin Stefanski is using him and teaching him how to get rid of the ball quickly, how to make sharp, quick decisions. And the Baker we saw yesterday didn't get sacked because, A, the offensive line did a nice job and a short-handed offensive line, but because Baker Mayfield understood the system he was playing in, had studied it, and was confident going with the read that he made and getting the ball out of his hands and not letting the Pittsburgh Steelers get close to him. And you want to talk about somebody who was totally neutered. J.J. Watt was totally neutered in this game. T.J. Watt, I'm sorry. A non-factor. A non-factor in the game.
And to make it even more confusing, there's a second Watt brother that's actually on the Steelers too.
Yeah.
Dimble Watt. Yeah. He's the 25 Watt. But Baker was getting rid of the ball, definitively getting it to the men on the right part of the field, throwing accurately. And that's what a quarterback's got to do. He's got to get guys lined up. He's got to get his cadence down. He's got to get his footwork down. He's got to just deliver a clean performance. And if you do that week after week, you're going to make the Hall of Fame because you're going to win so many goddamn games that they're going to look at you as possible entry material. All right. Right. And the Browns have the advantage of having Kevin Stefanski as a head coach, and he will develop and he will get better as a head coach. He has great communication skills, and he got an entire team to buy into the understanding of what he wanted to accomplish and the type of team and identity he wanted the Browns to have.
And he's not afraid to delegate.
That's right. He delegates to his people. I mean, the fact that, AVP was there calling the plays, it was pretty well seamless. It was pretty well seamless. And that they were on the same page, and that as a former quarterback, AVP understood the system as well as the quarterback who was in the game playing it. So yes, and giving the defensive coordinator Joe Woods free reign over to do what he's doing on the defensive side. It's a healthy arrangement, and players note when there's a problem, and the players in Philadelphia then they're going to be forced to choose sides between Carson Wentz, management, and then Doug Peterson. Then Doug Peterson loses the team permanently by not trying to win and putting Sudfeld in. He hurts Jalen Hurts, and who, if he had any intention of making him the starting quarterback of the future, he fucked that drill up completely. And the whole thing was a bungle job. We've seen it in Cleveland so many times where people just miscommunicate. What makes players good or great or average to above average is how they're fit into the scheme and whether they feel they belong. When you say next man up, it's easy to say that and then sit a man's ass like Freddie Kitchens did to David Njoku the entire season.
Or Higgins.
Or Higgins, that's right. And just say, fuck you, you're not playing. It's easy to do that. How do you get a guy to buy into the fact that he's not going to take every snap? And, you know, this game of football, as violent as it is, it's like war. And when I was a young kid, I always said I'd make the worst soldier in the world. And thank God I never had to go into combat because, you know, I don't listen so well. I'm not the kind of guy to take orders. I don't like to be pushed around. And I looked upon boot camp as cruelty, and which is naive because I never saw war close up through these two eyes. But you need people in charge, and the people who are the soldiers who execute the game plan need to have faith in the people who are leading them. And there are war similarities here. And when the players buy in, it makes life easier. David Njoku is blocking now, folks. He's blocking. This is something he refused to do. And he's getting snaps on the field, not just because he can run a pattern and not get the ball thrown to him, but because he is contributing in a valuable way. Look again at Donovan Peoples-Jones on, blocking for Nick Chubb downfield on the screen pass. I mean, not taken, you look at
not only on that play, but also on the second touchdown run by Kareem Hunt.
Yes. I mean,
he seals off the defensive back so that Kareem Hunt can get into the end zone.
And that's what I don't want to take a cheap shot at OBJ, but you got to do more than just say, I'm open downfield. This is a war of 11 on 11, and you've got to be able to do more things than just catch a pass. You've got to be able to block for people. And Kareem Hunt is a great blocking back, and he's proven that. You got to be willing to stick your nose in. A guy like Jarvis Landry is a guy who plays hard all the time. These are really good role models for younger players. And when they say next man up, it's because, and it's not just because of COVID, it could be because of injury. You're going to get a chance. Your name's going to get called. And if you come into the game and you make a total fool of yourself because you're not paying attention to what you're supposed to be doing in practice, you're out of the league. So if you want to,
or you let your quarterback get destroyed.
Yeah, you're going to be out of the league. You're going to be out of a job. And, so a guy like Dunn can come into the game and actually pick up where the last guy left off. These people are listening to the coach. The coach is the one who is the center of the whole universe. So, yeah, now, in the case of Mike Tomlin, I don't think that it's the players not listening to Mike Tomlin, although I would say that Juju Smith-Schuster-Smith, goofball, is not listening to anybody but himself, and he's going to become a free agent. And guys like Tomlin don't take well to people who don't pay attention. And
the only one is Smith-Schuster. The only one that he's listening to is Roethlisberger.
Yeah, and again, young players can be that way, but the problem with the Steelers is you look at Villanueva, you look at the people Pouncey, these are older guys. And when you take a look at the beginning of the game, when the Browns stopped them cold on a fourth down, you saw Ogunjobi just literally slam into the offensive line, get into the backfield and push the line of scrimmage back 1 yard. Yeah. I mean, the Steelers just weren't the physical bunch. And I think it's because they're aged and they're not picking up the necessary pieces for their interior line that they need. They can't run the ball. And you can sit there and say, well, Connor's not that good at running back. Well, a couple of years ago, he was doing just fine when there were holes there, when the people in front of him were blocking and they were younger and stronger. but these guys were getting out muscled on both sides of the ball. And
even more telling, Benny Snell didn't do any goddamn better. And
no.
He's the younger, stronger guy. So
there's no holes to run through. The Browns give up running yardage like there's no tomorrow. There are no holes to run through. The Browns were in the backfield. The Browns were pushing them backwards. And on the offensive line, do you see Jedrick Wills just snow plowing their people? Just mowing them down. I mean, they just don't look. It's like, well, these aren't the same physical Steelers. Well, they're older. And like Ben, he didn't want to go on the ground to recover a fumble because he's afraid he might fall on his elbow or whatever else might be the case. This team is old. They are,
and that miss snap really, I think, really affected Pouncey far more than he would probably let on.
Yeah, I think that, and again, a great team's a great team. The Steelers have been a great franchise. They got to figure out a way to move on and continue to be really good and relevant by getting better, younger, stronger players on the field. They were just soundly thrashed, soundly beaten by a team that didn't have its parts and a team that hadn't even practiced. And a lot of it is physical. And, you say, well, they were 11-1 or 11-0. It's like, yeah. But they were 1-5 at the end. They ran out of gas. I mean, plain and simple, I think bumps and bruises become more significant slowdown injuries when you're older. And there's just too much on the odometer for these players. So, I don't, this is not something that I troll. And, Ben Roethlisberger had an incredible 23-2 record against the Browns, and they owned us in their building. And, years ago, Bernie Kosar went in and had the same problem in the original the Three Rivers Stadium. And Bernie went in there and won for the first time in God knows how long. And the Browns lost a game when Brian Sipe was the quarterback that they were leading 21-0 in the beginning of the game when Cleophas Miller fell on a fumble. I don't know if people remember that. We lost that game when we were up 21-0 in the first quarter to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, the fact of the matter.
I remember that a game at Three Rivers where the Browns were leading 34-33. And Chris Barr they drive down and Chris Barr ends up kicking a winning field goal.
Yeah.
Or no, Matt Barr did. Matt Barr.
Yeah. I mean, it's Chris Barr.
And I ended up winning the pool that day. And of course I got a few swats for it.
But
that's how it goes when the Browns play the Steelers.
But the fact is everyone wants to focus on the Steelers. I'm trying to explain to everybody that the Steelers, every team gets long in the tooth, and that's what determines what a really good front office can do, is to bring in new people. And it
finally happened to the Patriots.
It happens to everybody. Nobody stays on top forever. And the Steelers have a massive salary cap problem on their hands. So, they'll bring Ben will come back and play for less money, but I don't understand. The team needs a quarterback in the worst possible way. And coming out of a season that they were 11-5, 12-4, they're not going to get a high pick. So. And they don't have the money to hold on to a lot of the people who are free agents on that team. So, this is what happens. And right now, what's new and what's fresh are the Ravens, who, one big run by the incredibly athletic Lamar Jackson and a 17
highlight reel
and a 17-for-24 passing game and for 177 yards and barely beating the Titans. And we put up 42 on them. We hung 42 on the Titans. I'm not, it's the Ravens and the Browns, folks. And depending on, they've brought Zach Taylor back in Cincinnati and Joe Burrow. We all hope. And I saw a video of him walking a little bit and God willing, he'll be in the mix. And
he just did a interview recently. I saw it posted on Twitter, some guy's Twitter feed. But yeah, he is doing his rehab.
Yeah, and he's doing well from what I understand. And I think the Bengals were a little bit further away than other teams, but they have a great young quarterback. If they can protect him, they got to come up with a better offensive line. And they, too, have to move on from Mixon because he's hurt all the time. They need to find themselves stud running back. And, there's a lot. And A.J. Green's got to go. He's old, and that's all part of the past. You got to build position by position, just like the Cleveland Browns need to draft, secondary people, and we need. Now we're going to need defensive linemen because Olivier Vernon's probably not going to be back. And Sheldon Richardson's no kid, and we're going to need people more than Porter Gustin to get pressure to help out Myles Garrett, who hopefully will return somewhere near the form that he was before COVID. So it's, but right now it's Ravens and then the Browns, and the Steelers are heading south, and the Bengals are hopefully going to try to head north. But that the Bengals ownership and Mike Brown are not the smartest, peas in the pod. So,
Yeah, he's definitely in the Mike McCaskey category of grandchildren or children that really aren't worth the fuck.
We have a guy sitting here, and Miles Warner. It's like, if you want to say something, Miles Warner, in the chat room to prove that you're a diehard Cleveland Browns fan, I'm more than happy to put you on the air. But if you can't do that, not going to work. And D-Cup Toe Juice is right. This offense, it's obvious that they're interchangeable parts, and the interchangeable parts, as long as you understand how to block the scheme that can get holes for running backs, as long as the running backs have vision and know where the block's supposed to be thrown, and the block gets to be thrown there. It's a great system. It's intelligent. It's well thought out, and it's been taught extremely well to this Cleveland team.
But it was funny to watch Nick Chubb try to reverse field and go all the way back to the other sideline, trying to find some place to cut up field and get at least 3 yards, and couldn't do it.
No, he still ran some clock down, But again, the lag in understanding how good the offense is mainly because fans want to think, oh, God, here we go again. We looked pretty good for a while with Freddie Kitchens. But this is different because another coach altogether can call the plays and they still work. You understand that when Freddie Kitchens took over, he took over an offensive scheme of a fired offensive coordinator, and he selected the plays and they worked. And when the offensive coordinator, Todd Haley, selected them, he selected the wrong plays. Then Freddie got into his head that, hey, I can create one of these myself, which he didn't know how to do. So you can't compare this to years past. This is a solid scheme that is going to remain in place. And if anything, the Browns should get better at doing it. All right. And the other thing that's really great is guys like Joel Bitonio and then Jedrick Wills, as he continues to mature, and J.C. Treader. And that's a name that it totally, Treader was a coach on the field. We had no offensive line coaches. And Treader assumed that role. I don't know if he assumed that role for this last game. So they understand the system implicitly, and they can teach it to young players. And, I noticed that Austin Corbett was playing for the Rams, correct?
Yes.
And how is he doing there?
Well, they beat the shit out of the Seattle defense with Cam Akers, so not too bad.
The fact of the matter is, they gave up on him. The scheme was bad, and he wasn't good at it. And the same thing could be said for Wyatt Teller. He looked terrible in that scheme. But now, if you have somebody teaching people and you draft offensive linemen and you don't use high picks, for these people, you just get them in, in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. But then you have these veterans who understand the system to teach these guys how to do it. That's how you have.
Well, and they're also learning from Bill Callahan too.
Yeah, I mean, it's lasting success because, it's not like, oh, Joe Thomas is gone, so our offensive line is gone. That's, for me, a real exciting thing for Browns fans. And you don't know who's good. I don't know about Drew Forbes. He might, in this scheme, be a decent player, and the questions being asked.
Wouldn't it be nice to have some of those guys the offensive linemen that opted out right around now?
Right. Kaderil Hodge perhaps might be coming back, D-Cup Toe Juice. I don't know what the situation is with him, but correct. Ward, Bitonio, Callahan, Stefanski, and the Chad O'Shea, the assistant coach, they should be back for the game against the Chiefs. So, and Kaderil Hodge, I'm not sure, but Kaderil Hodge is just another big body who blocks out there and can catch a pass. Just another interchangeable part. And, the thing is, you can draft offensive linemen based upon the understanding of who has the ability to move to play in this system. It's not just, who is just a good college offensive lineman, but who's hard worker, who's willing to learn, and who has the raw physical skills to play within that framework. And we never had that before. We were just picking people based on, he was good in college. Now we have a real way of choosing people. Harrison, he didn't play much yesterday. But, again, there's not a need. There wasn't a need for him to play very much. And, another thing that's not getting talked about is, as bad as it was in the beginning of the year, with Prefer being out there as the acting head coach, the special teams have improved tremendously since the beginning of the year. Teams are trying to run back kicks, and they're getting nailed before the 25-yard line. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Everybody is contributing, and it's just a great thing, And this is the problem, little TYG. Parkey is a hot, cold guy. He's streaky. You hope that he's in a good streak now. Everything he kicked was as straight as an arrow down the middle. Let's hope it continues because he gets the yips sometimes. We've seen that happen. But
I think he was also kind of riding the wave with the rest of the players, being up that big that early and just, not really thinking about overthinking the kicks.
It's not. Yeah. So, I mean, for, the Titans-Chiefs championship game, everybody knows how to beat the Chiefs. Nobody really is doing it, but it requires, and the reason, if you have a Derrick Henry who, has a big game, and I think Henry, after the loss for the Titans, said, this game really can humble you. You go from 230 yards rushing in a game to zippity-doo-dah. But you have to ball control. You have to keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands as much as possible. And, and they will give up points. And you got to run and play physical with them and push them around and put points on the board. And you're going to end up in a shootout.
Yeah.
And here again with the Ravens, they were able to get penetration, and they were stuffing him before he could even really get his momentum going towards the line of scrimmage. Right. So he had a lot of negative runs in that 40 yards.
When you have a guy who's a real north-south runner, the same thing was true back when Kevin Mack played for the Browns in the 80s. I think that it's a if you, before he would build up the head of steam to go north-south, you grab him by the ankles, if you're behind the line of scrimmage, and slow him down, then other people can take him down.
Yeah, it was either a minus 2 yard run or it was a 65-yard touchdown.
Yeah, the
So-
Chiefs game is going to be interesting because Denzel Ward coming off of COVID. We don't know how that's going to help his speed, hurt his speed and lungs, and he's going to be matched up against the fastest and probably best wide receiver in the game, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the one thing about the Browns, the middle of the field is going to be open. I mean, look, we don't still have the requisite skill, and Patrick Mahomes is going to have the opportunity.
That's where Travis Kelce is going to beat the shit out of you.
That's right. I mean, there's going to be underneath throws like there's no tomorrow. But again, the strategy is better to force Mahomes into taking more time to score, getting physical, and then scoring with them, and getting into a slower version shootout. And yeah, we're proving that we can score 30, 40 points in a game. It can be done. And that's going to be the challenge for the Browns, is to be efficient offensively and not have 3 and outs like we did 3 in a row against the Steelers.
Right.
Keep putting the ball back in Patrick Mahomes' hands. So, but it's going to be a game that everybody's going to look forward to, because at their best, the Browns have the ability to score points. And at their best, the Chiefs are unstoppable juggernaut. So, and this is what it comes down to. The teams that have played them competitively, for the most part, are teams that scored with them, and you hang around, and you hope that. Maybe you get that one play that's going to get the ball in your hands last, with a chance to win it all. This is not going to be a defensive struggle. I think that's rather safe to say. And I think that, what I was saying in yesterday's game, it's interesting, was I always say, how many points do you need to win the game? And I said the Browns needed 2 more touchdowns, which would have put them at 49. And they ended up with 48. But you can see how that game could have taken a different turn had Pittsburgh gone for it on 4th and 1, which I don't, again, what the reasoning was, I don't understand. I don't get it. The Browns have been one of the most miserable stop you on 4th down teams, but they did stop them twice. And, they didn't feel confident enough that Ben could pick up a couple of yards, just throwing the ball to a tight end. So, I guess that's the way that I look at this, is that swung the momentum back in Cleveland's favor. But 40 points to win D-Cup,
more like 50.
It may take more. It may take more. That's right. And, have the Browns blown their big game? Is this the best that the Browns will play? I'll tell you one thing. What I believe is that these players are going in and they're going to be businesslike, and they're going to do the best they can. And I never had that feeling about Cleveland Browns for God knows how long. And that's what the whole same old Browns thing, that the Browns players were, whether it was on Baker Mayfield's Instagram or it was after the game, Myles Garrett, they asked Myles Garrett, it was great. They asked him, with all of the people missing, and then people being plugged into positions who hadn't even practiced with the team, who is this team? And he just smiled and said, same old Browns. And you give teams reasons to win, and this team is workmanlike. And they're playing for a lunch bucket, workmanlike head coach. He may be Princeton grad, he may be a brainy character, but at the heart of it, he dots I's and crosses T's, and he expects all of his players to do the same thing. And
don't expect any bulletin board material this week. I'll tell you that.
No, I mean,
you're gonna get that out of KC, unlike you all the thugs in Pittsburgh.
And
that's
a bunch of them.
Why Mac Wilson is not playing. I really believe that Mac Wilson is sitting around on the sidelines because he keeps shooting his yap off on social media. I really believe that. So
Well, speaking of shooting their mouths off on social media, a bunch of them were retweeting the Browns as they were landing. They had a whole 75 to 100 fans at 3 a.m. Waiting for the plane to come in. And
Yeah.
as the guys were driving out, they were greeting the guys. So
yeah, it's not that they haven't blown everybody out. You're right. Teams have hung in, but the problem is when it's they who have their hands on the ball in the critical moment, whether it's in an overtime or at the end in a 2-minute drill,
They're going to score.
they're going to score. That's right. And you gotta really, really manage the clock. You've got to, and you can't put the ball back in Patrick Mahomes' hands when you're up by 3 at the end and give him a minute and 20 seconds even. You can't do it. And it takes a lot of discipline, and patience. But
Their only loss was a fluke loss against the Raiders. I mean, you
That's
can't count Week 17 because they rested half their team.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, as far as Steelers are concerned, all the talk.
Claypool's shooting his mouth off still.
Is he really? What does he say?
Yeah, he said, it doesn't matter. The Browns are going to get wrecked next week anyways.
Well, and then so would you have. Basically what he's saying, well, shit, they're no better than we are. And that's really a message that his teammates want to hear. They're falling apart because there isn't, the confidence, the swagger of just wearing the black and gold isn't good enough anymore. You got to perform.
congratulations to Bradley B for being the closest to the score of the game. He had the Browns winning 45-42.
Wow, that's pretty good.
He was the only one to pick a winning score in the 40s.
Yeah. Hey, look at this. I bet you'd like to. You're a chubby chaser, aren't you, Pierce? Yeah. You like us chubby older guys. Right.
Can't even spell Piers Morgan's name.
Yeah, because he's illiterate. He might be a Steeler fan, picking his nose with a peanut. And again, I know Steeler fans are disappointed, but they're just not used to this. They're not used to a meltdown. Cleveland, it's like, oh, it's happening to them. Yes, they're not used to that. And there's, that's the way it is with the New England fans too. I mean, they wanted to believe that Belichick could get anybody to plug in at quarterback and they would just go to the playoffs. It doesn't work that way. It takes time to find a quarterback. And that, the Eagles, the problem the Eagles are going to have are just like the problems that all teams have when they don't have a good quarterback, is it can take years and it can take many failures. And sometimes, and I really believe that the Eagles are trying to make nice with Carson Wentz because they're not going to get a quarterback at number 6. It's going to be worth a goddamn. Not going to be better than Carson Wentz. And they're going to need a new system in there. And maybe in a new system, Carson Wentz can, get that luster back into his career. Right? Look what it did for Baker Mayfield, who is really being, lampooned by the national press as being not good enough. That turns out to be totally wrong. Something that I pointed out during the course of the halftime show as my only concern was how many defensive snaps the Cleveland Browns were put in, because they were turning the ball over and we were scoring quick. We were making what I would call unintentional chunk plays and scoring incredibly quickly. 90 defensive snaps for the Cleveland Browns. Is that incredible? And Terrence Mitchell played all 90. That's for an Iron Man. And then MJ Stewart, 88 snaps, almost all of them in the slot. Adrian Claiborne, the ancient one, 76 snaps, the most of any lineman, and his most of the season. And then at safety, it was Carl Joseph with 72, Redwine with 55, Sendejo with 47, and Ronnie Harrison Jr., who missed Friday's practice because of his placement on, only played 11 snaps. For all the talk about Ronnie Harrison, it was Carl Joseph, Sheldrick Redwine, and Andrew Sendejo who carried the load, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty amazing. And BJ Goodson only played 47 snaps, which is half. All right. Jacob Phillips played 50 snaps, and he led all the linebackers.
Talk about that guy, though. Goodson's tough. He supposedly has a sprained AC joint and bruised ribs.
Yeah.
Still
still played. And a sprained AC joint is just nothing you want to deal with.
Supposedly, according to Tom Pelissero of NFL.com, it's a bad sprain, too. It's not a mild one.
But, it takes guts to play. You're at a time of the year where you put up or you shut up. Porter Gustin played 31 snaps. Michael Dunn, 53 snaps before he suffered that calf injury, and that's too bad for the young man. And Blake Hance, who basically Myles Garrett said, "Oh, I just met him before the game for the first time." Can you believe that? Blake Hance played 14 snaps. The final
Baker Mayfield said that.
Oh, Baker said it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's like I just met the guy.
I met him in the locker room.
Yeah. I mean, and
hi, I'm Baker Mayfield. I'm going to be lined up behind you.
Conklin played 17 snaps before the injury. Kendall Lamb played the final 50, and Austin Hooper played 80. Well, he didn't play 83 snaps. He just said, but he played all but 7 of the offensive snaps. So that's pretty damn good. I mean, that you need as many bodies as you can if you're going to be out there for 90 defensive snaps. That's a lot. So I'm just looking at what other things I want to get out of my soul here. Because the media is making this more about the Steelers than about the Browns. And people are saying that we have a fighting chance against the Chiefs. I think anytime after what we just saw, we have a fighting chance against anyone. But I doubt that we're going to get all the breaks that we got early on in the game. So, I think that's, and the players, I think, want it for their coach too. I think that there is a good vibe in the organization right now, and that just has never been the case. Before we get out of here, NBA fans, the New Orleans Pelicans, Dallas Mavericks, the Boston Celtics, Chicago Bulls games postponed due to COVID. COVID is eating up the NBA. Once you're out of the bubble, you understand what happens here. The NBA is, 9 guys out of a roster of, what do they got on a roster now? 13 men they dress in the NBA.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 9 of them are COVID. So, they would have had to bring up every one of their two-way players, and they would have had to play the whole game without rest. And this is going to be what you hear more and more as the next sport, basketball takes over. It's going to be difficult. The rumors are that Dan Quinn, the former Falcons coach, might well be the defensive coordinator heading to Dallas. So, whatever that means, good or bad, or,
do you really want another defensive coach from the Falcons? Because that just worked out so fantastically well this last season.
The last thing before I get out of here that really surprised the hell out of me is now, as the regular season has ended and the teams who are looking for a new head coach, that it looks as though Eric Bieniemy is not even being interviewed. You have to ask yourself why. And, and I'm not going to turn this into a race platform, but I mean,
but isn't part of that the
Eagles have right to refuse until the season's over?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Tony.
The Eagles have the right to refuse interviews until their season ends. Once their season's over, then he's free to interview. Most teams that are still around don't do that because they don't want to interrupt the flow of the fucking team.
But, a lot of inside sources in the NFL are saying that teams are not interested in him, and that would be an absolute shock if 2 years in a row he kind of got the bums rush. That would be a real surprise. But, around the league, we're not one of those teams who's looking for anything right now,
Right.
except the best execution that we can get come Sunday at 3:15. And the beautiful part of it is I'm working on so little sleep today, as many of you probably are. I'm going to get a good night's rest, and knowing the next game is a nice 3:15 game on Sunday, we'll have a halftime and post game activity. I'll tell you, last night it was really hard to ramp down.
Yeah, it's hard to get what. Well, I mean, you're getting typed up. Nobody expected the Browns to come out and put a fucking shellacking on the Steelers, so that sure fired everybody up. But then, yeah, you got done at 1 a.m. and I mean, sure, probably bed by 3. Maybe if you're lucky.
And thanks to Pat. Yeah, I'm hearing the same thing, that people are getting cold feet on him. So, yeah, and guys like Bronk, who stayed up until 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, by the time I was able to physically get to sleep, it was 1:45 in the morning.
Oof.
And yeah, I mean, and both Rox and I she was doing the cheerleader bit, we're both just exhausted today. I remember now why I stopped doing these late night post game shows. But, look, the team put out, if a guy can play with a sprained AC joint, God damn it, I can stay up late. And that's what and it ended up being the good thing, because I was glad to be able to share with the viewers just the joy of the moment of, and it's not just the Steelers. It could have been anyone that we were playing in our first game of the playoffs, but it was sweeter, or as Miles Garrett said, poetic justice, that it would be the Steelers that we whizzed on. And let's hope that we have something left in the tank now, preparing for a Chiefs team. And Stefanski's got his work cut out for him here. This is going to be very, very difficult.
Right.
So that's it. That's what I got for you today. I want to thank everybody for supporting the program, and guys on the panel, and just how happy I am that we're still playing. It's amazing that we're this far into a season and into into the postseason, still there, and we're not only relevant, we're more relevant now than we have been at any time during the year, and that it's nice for the players to get some accolades nationally instead of the crap that they put up with in so many instances from the national media. All right, everybody, thanks a lot for tuning in back again on Friday, where we're going to really knuckle down and talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. I got some homework to do about them. Maybe we'll have some ideas in-house and how the Browns can accomplish what seems to be an almost impossibility. But that's what we were saying before the Steelers game too. Thanks for tuning in. And until Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, hasta la vista, Patriots. Good night.
See y'all later.
See you Friday.